The concept of Greater Israel evokes a myriad of images and interpretations, often steeped in religious fervor, historical claims, and political aspirations. It's a term loaded with meaning, symbolizing different things to different people. To some, it represents a biblical promise, a divinely ordained homeland for the Jewish people. To others, it's a geopolitical entity, a vision of a powerful Israel extending its reach across the Levant. This essay delves into the complex and often contested notion of Greater Israel, aiming to disentangle myth from reality. We'll journey through its historical evolution, explore the biblical narratives that underpin the concept, and examine its modern political interpretations. By understanding the various facets of Greater Israel, we can better grasp its significance in the ongoing Israeli-Palestinian conflict and the broader Middle East. This exploration is not about endorsing one perspective over another, rather it's about fostering understanding. This is a sensitive topic, laden with emotion and historical baggage. By engaging with the historical facts, religious narratives, and political realities, we can hopefully contribute to a more informed and nuanced discussion. The roots of Greater Israel are deeply intertwined with biblical narratives, particularly the concept of the Promised Land. These ancient texts, revered and studied for centuries, lay the foundation for understanding the historical and spiritual significance of this land. The Hebrew Bible, specifically the books of Genesis and Exodus, recounts the story of Abraham and his descendants, who were promised a land flowing with milk and honey. This promise made by God to Abraham is a cornerstone of Jewish faith and identity, symbolizing hope, prosperity, and divine favor. This land, often referred to as Canaan, encompasses a territory larger than present-day Israel, stretching from the Nile River in Egypt to the Euphrates River in modern-day Iraq. These geographical descriptions highlight the vastness and richness of the Promised Land, as envisioned in biblical times. The biblical account of Joshua's conquest of Canaan further reinforces the notion of a divinely ordained homeland for the Israelites. Joshua's military campaigns, as described in the Bible, depict a determined effort to claim and settle this promised territory, guided by divine instruction. These narratives, passed down through generations, have had a profound impact on Jewish identity and their connection to the land. Jewish traditions, festivals, and cultural practices often reflect this deep-seated bond, celebrating the historical and spiritual journey of the Jewish people. They serve as a source of both spiritual inspiration and historical claim. The rituals and prayers performed in synagogues around the world echo the ancient promises and the enduring hope for a return to the Promised Land. However, interpreting these ancient texts requires careful consideration. Scholars and theologians dedicate their lives to understanding the nuances and context of these writings, striving to uncover the layers of meaning embedded within. The Bible is a complex and multifaceted work, open to various interpretations. Different religious traditions and scholarly perspectives offer diverse views on the significance and implications of these ancient narratives. It's crucial to avoid literal readings and recognize the historical and cultural context in which these texts were written. Understanding the ancient world, its customs, and its geopolitical landscape is essential for a nuanced interpretation of biblical stories. The biblical narratives provide a foundational understanding of the deep-seated connection between the Jewish people and the land. This connection is not merely historical, but also deeply spiritual, influencing Jewish thought and practice throughout the ages. However, it's essential to distinguish between religious belief and historical reality. While faith and tradition play a significant role in shaping identity, historical evidence and scholarly research provide a different perspective on the past. While the Bible provides a spiritual and historical narrative, it's not a blueprint for modern political boundaries. The ancient descriptions of the Promised Land reflect a different era, and contemporary political realities require a separate, more pragmatic approach to territorial issues. The concept of Greater Israel often relies on maps, both ancient and modern, to illustrate its scope and historical claims. These maps serve as visual representations of a complex and often contentious idea, attempting to bridge the past with the present. These maps, however, require careful scrutiny. It's not enough to simply look at them. One must understand the context in which they were created and the purposes they serve. Ancient maps, often based on biblical accounts, may not accurately reflect historical boundaries or political realities. They were created in a time when cartography was more art than science, and their creators often had limited knowledge of the world beyond their immediate surroundings. Modern maps, on the other hand, can be politically charged, used to promote specific narratives or territorial ambitions. These maps are often created with a particular agenda in mind, whether it's to assert a claim, justify a policy, or influence public opinion. One common misconception is that the biblical boundaries of the Promised Land represent a historical reality that must be reinstated. This view overlooks the fact that the biblical texts themselves are not historical documents in the modern sense, but rather religious and cultural narratives. This interpretation ignores centuries of history, including the rise and fall of empires, population shifts, and the evolution of political borders. The region has seen countless changes in control and demographics, each leaving its mark on the landscape and its people. The historical record paints a far more complex picture than a simple return to ancient boundaries. It reveals a tapestry of cultures, religions, and political entities, each contributing to the region's rich and multifaceted history. Another challenge lies in reconciling the various interpretations of Greater Israel's geographical extent. Different groups and scholars have proposed different boundaries, each based on their own readings of historical and religious texts. Some proponents envision a state encompassing all the territory promised to Abraham in the Bible. This expansive view often includes large swathes of land that are currently part of several different modern nations. Others focus on areas with historical Jewish populations or religious significance. These interpretations tend to be more limited in scope, but they still encompass a significant and often contentious area. The lack of a clear and universally accepted definition of Greater Israel further complicates the issue. Without a consensus, the concept remains fluid and open to interpretation, leading to ongoing debates and disputes. Maps can be powerful tools, but they can also be misleading. They can shape perceptions and influence decisions, often in ways that are not immediately apparent. When examining maps related to Greater Israel, it's crucial to consider the source, the intended audience, and the historical context. Only by doing so can we begin to separate fact from fiction and gain a clearer understanding of this complex and often contentious issue. The rise of Zionism in the late 19th century added a new layer of complexity to the concept of Greater Israel. This movement, which sought to establish a Jewish homeland, was deeply rooted in the historical and religious connections of the Jewish people to the land of Palestine. The idea of Greater Israel, which had been a theological and cultural concept for centuries, began to take on a more political and territorial dimension. Zionism, a political movement advocating for a Jewish homeland in Palestine, embraced the historical and religious connections to the land. The movement gained momentum in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, attracting Jews from around the world who were seeking refuge from persecution and a place to call their own. The land of Palestine, with its rich biblical history, was seen as the ideal location for this new Jewish state. However, early Zionist leaders differed in their visions for a Jewish state, including its geographical scope. These debates were often intense and reflected the diverse backgrounds and perspectives of the movement's leaders. Some envisioned a vast territory that would encompass all of historical Palestine, while others were more focused on practical considerations and the immediate needs of the Jewish people. Some, like Theodor Herzl, the founder of political Zionism, envisioned a Jewish state encompassing all of Palestine, including present-day Israel, the West Bank, and Gaza. Herzl's vision was grand and ambitious, reflecting his belief in the need for a secure and expansive homeland for the Jewish people. He saw this as a way to ensure the safety and prosperity of Jews worldwide. Others, like Chaim Weizmann, a chemist and Zionist leader, advocated for a more pragmatic approach, focusing on establishing a Jewish state in a smaller, more defensible territory. Weizmann's approach was shaped by his scientific background and his understanding of the geopolitical realities of the time. He believed that a smaller, more manageable state would be more sustainable in the long run. The establishment of the State of Israel in 1948 further complicated matters. The Declaration of Independence was a momentous occasion, celebrated by Jews around the world. However, it also marked the beginning of a new phase in the conflict with the Arab population of Palestine and the surrounding Arab states. The 1948 Arab-Israeli War resulted in Israel gaining control of more territory than initially allocated under the United Nations partition plan. This unexpected victory expanded the borders of the new state, but it also intensified the conflict with the Arab population and neighboring countries. The war left deep scars and set the stage for future conflicts in the region. This victory, however, came at a cost, displacing hundreds of thousands of Palestinians and fueling the ongoing Israeli-Palestinian conflict. The creation of the State of Israel and the subsequent war led to a massive refugee crisis, with many Palestinians forced to flee their homes. This displacement has had lasting repercussions, contributing to the enduring tension and violence in the region. The Six-Day War in 1967, which resulted in Israel's capture of the West Bank, East Jerusalem, the Gaza Strip, the Golan Heights, and the Sinai Peninsula, reignited the debate over Greater Israel. This swift and decisive victory dramatically altered the map of the Middle East and brought many historically and religiously significant sites under Israeli control. The acquisition of these territories, particularly the West Bank, home to numerous biblical sites, emboldened those who saw it as a step toward realizing a greater Israel. The presence of these sites, which hold deep religious significance for Jews, Christians, and Muslims alike, added a new layer of complexity to the territorial disputes. The debate over the future of these lands continues to shape the political landscape